now be placed into the conference.
Consciously more attached to things that need more attention. So it's becoming like possibly in your job or whatever it is currently doing, possibly even homework, kind of attached to things that require more of your attention, more effort than other things. You might look wistfully back at high school at how much easier the homework was, despite at the time homework then was difficult. So you actually miss homework, or you might miss something that was actually difficult. I actually, in one of my vocabulary words, I wanted to define insensibly, because we think it's nonsense. It actually means to be apathetic or lacking. That actually means you have no feeling towards the thing that you're doing. Like,
So how does this pertain to
how did it pertain to Tulipomania? Well, let's say.
Well, I mean, this is for anyone in the class. This doesn't necessarily. So, I mean, how does this pertain to Tulipomania?
It became focused on just stuff that looks value. That's how we fall. Start looking at, they don't see. Like having a dream. So focused on one object there.
Right. Yeah, and I think so. I mean, so how does that pertain? How does that pertain to us, or to each of us in our business?
I'm so focused on doing that one thing, like the tulips, that you don't realize how much effort and time you put into that one thing, and how much it's consuming.
Right. So, and the one thing, this is just from my own experience, is they weren't really looking at the value that this particular thing was bringing. You know, tulips are cool, but I mean, it was crazy what people were paying for. And so, it's funny that this actually happened, because if you read it, it's.
Well, it wasn't like they were paying like 1,000 something or other for tulip.
Oh yeah, it'd be an equivalent of like $1 million today. I think I'd have to go back. The first time I ever heard about this, somebody had spent $500,000 in today's money on one of these. So I think for business, at least for me, I think the thing that we need to get out of this particular question is that you really need to find the value in what you're doing. With whatever project or whatever thing you're doing or whatever piece of business you're working on, what's the value?
Like the overall outcome, is this actually going to be profitable? The amount of effort I'm putting into this is actually going to make money back.
Yeah, and I heard the term someone where it said, they're gold plating the situation, when a lot of times stuff doesn't need gold plating. Too often business waste a lot of energy chasing after. So just think about that. I think this is one of the things that we really need to pay attention to. Not just the emperor's clothes. People are actually whole countries. I mean, the emperor's new clothes is supposed to be a fairy tale, but it sounds like stuff is crazy.
Sounds like technology.
Yeah, you'll have to. Okay, so who's got question 2? Is there anyone here from group 2 who wants to volunteer? Maybe what I should do is have everybody play rock, paper, scissors before they come to class. Yes. No, we'll change it up. And I'm only going to do 3 groups because there's 9 questions. It's right on that computer. What?
Teachers won't be assigned.
Now, there'll be 3 groups, and then however, I think if there's 21 people in the class, then it'll be 7. Then you'll have to just work. Well, you'll just have to work together, like so. So if there's 7 people and there's 3 questions, then you just split it up. Okay, you 2 take the first question, you 2 take the next question.
All right. Our question is, why did the price of tulips increase with the mania? Basically, since there's just so much demand for it, usually when there's a lot of demand for something, it causes the price to shoot up. So, I mean, I guess people just saw that other people saw value in it, so they're like, oh, I got to get this too. So it kind of creates a artificial, I guess, demand per se, because tulips aren't really valuable in a sense, but when people see something of value to other people, they kind of perceive value.
Okay, so we're talking about this. So in today's world, what kinds of things are increasing? Like for instance, gold. Why does gold have a value that is it really that rare? Yeah, so it's like diamonds and gold and silver. Why does silver have... Does anyone really know if gold is more rare than silver?
I think it is.
Well, I mean, I think it is too, but I don't know how to prove that. Because what happens to most of the gold that gets discovered? Where's it go? It falls someplace.
Well, I saw something on the internet. It's kind of related to this. It was like a picture of a couple, and they're in front of a judge. I think it was a divorce. And they had like a big pile of Beanie Babies in the middle, and they're basically separating the Beanie Babies and the divorce decree or whatever. And it kind of reminded me of this because, like, Beanie Babies, like, they're not worth anything now. But I guess back in the 90s.
I know they're still worth.
Are they?
Oh, yeah.
As collectors will pay many.
Like, how much?
Sometimes they go to upwards of $1,000. At least that's what I was thinking, because I know somebody that's obsessed with them and puts them in little baggies.
Yeah.
It's just we don't just have tulips. We have so many things in our country. Like, for instance,
think about baseball cards, football cards.
Baseball cards and football cards, typically they're not really worth much more than they're printed. But then, for instance, I just know this because I looked it up, and it's been a couple of years, and so. But if you have a Chewbacca, one of the original Chewbaccas, out of the box, it's worth like 15 or 20. But if you actually have it in a package, it's worth like $700. Yeah. Or what? Just like one of the little action figures in the 1970s. That brother has a.
Oh, really?
It's like. Right. I know this is the same thing. I mean, we're talking about tulips, and when I'm reading this, I'm thinking, how in the world did they get to that point? But where did that point with a lot of things? I mean, gold is a little bit more understandable because people use it as currency. But some of these other things,
yeah,
It's kind of like the diamond water effect. The fact that we have such abundance of water here, finding all these diamonds for to have a bottle of water. But we pay the higher price for the diamonds by the water.
right? And also the diamonds aren't like the diamonds that they're pulling out of the ground. They're not necessarily. But then I think there's part of this mania is all the diamonds too. I think diamonds are something like there's no. I mean, there's some industrial uses for diamonds because they're so hard to put into saw blades and stuff like that. Right. But it's just weird that the prices on those things are so much.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard theories that the De Beers control the diamond supply or whatever. And so, I mean, I think this is why we're talking about it. So it brings up this discussion. It seems ridiculous that tulips are like that. There's a lot of things that we don't see as so ridiculous, gold and silver, but are similar in diamonds. That's one thing.
Yeah.
Right. So that's it for question 2. Who's got question 3? I could have. They're really funny.
All right, so basically this one was pretty straightforward because I just mentioned it in the book, but people were getting so infatuated with these tulips that they kind of stopped investing in producing and other stuff. So the whole industry, like pretty much the whole entire Dutch industry as a whole, just kind of collapsed. People were so infatuated with collecting tulips, harvesting tulips, buying them. Didn't focus on anything else really.
So since we're talking about this, how does this relate to us today? Can anyone think of something that this has happened to?
If you look at today's world, we focus so much on like technology and being college and stuff. Really, that's why I think such a panicking prices, construction prices now versus years ago. Of course, you have to go off inflation, but prices cheaper. Great job used to cost you $700. Great job done. Inflation doesn't take care of that much.
Right. How many of you have changed your brake? It's amazing that they charge so much to change brakes.
It takes 2 hours.
It's sometimes not even that long. Yeah, if you know what you're doing on your car. And so this is a good example where we really have spent, and education is becoming really expensive. So I saw a thing, and I saw something that talked about in 1970 an education for a year of Yale cost like $2,500, and minimum wage was $1.75. And then fast forward to 2014, minimum wage is like $750, but it costs $43,000 at Yale. So if you looked at that, you could provide your own education at Yale for 4.5 hours at minimum. But now, if you're going to do minimum wage, you have to work 17.5 hours. So I think, and he doesn't mention this at all, but I think education is one of those things where we're all getting an education, but then there are other jobs people are doing that don't necessarily need classroom education, but can make. Because I'm just thinking about my own experience, out of my family and their spouses, and my spouse's family and their spouses, there's a couple. The one who makes the most money right now did not get a college education, but he's worked in the oil industry. So he go out and work on rigs like $2,000 because but his education has come through the trade that he's not necessarily. But isn't like you can go to school, become an electrical engineer for whatever. You're going to have to somehow you're going to have to get in. So when he was going to college, he actually got a job here at Ceramatech, and because of something he was doing at Ceramatech with networking, he got a job where they were pulling network cable pipe. Somehow that's how he got it. But so it's interesting because I've spent a lot more time and money on my education than he has. He's got more. Just someone that got a job with custom parts. He actually helps them install the parts. Buy some kind of stuff. And for the position that he has, over like 300 applicants, one person actual. I've done drag racing, I've done autocross, I've done this, that, and he was the only one education. So it's interesting. So you need to look at what you're trying to go into. And personally, from my own experience, I think everyone needs to get an education because it's going to help. My father-in-law got his MBA when he was between 30 and 35. And the MBA didn't make a difference to him until he was 65. And they were looking for people for a particular position at Wells Fargo. And because he had an MBA, he made the short list. So it took him like 30 years for that to pay off. Including him, he made the most money in the last 10 years.
But when you just think about it, people that go to school fairly it pays off in the long run. Because I'm a first generation college student family. My dad is first generation husband, my brother, my husband is, and the things that happened to them on the job site, like one guy died from falling off. My dad's got blown out discs. Like your body takes a toll, and so by the time you're 50, you're lucky on whether or not you're still working. So
that's true. And this is a good point because I have relatives that are in that same situation that when they were working construction when they were younger, it was really good money, but then at a certain point they can't do it anymore. And it's like professional athletes. There's a few of them that make a lot of money, but a lot of them don't make that money. And so, and especially if you look at how long they work. Now, if I was going to be a professional athlete, I'd go into like baseball or tennis, where it's not too hard on your body and you play it for a lot of years. And so, but then there's football. There's a lot of guys that go in, they 2 or 3 years in. Like I have a friend that he played for the New England Patriots the year that they won the Super Bowl, but he hurt his back. And so every time we've been to lunch a couple of times in the last couple of years, and he's just uncomfortable all the time. This guy's when I say huge, I mean his arms are bigger than his waist is small. But he's this massive guy and he still works out. But because of his back, he can't play anymore. So he only played for a couple of years. And so he's still having to work. So you just have to look at the value that you're getting out of the situation and try to be as smart as possible doing it. Because you're going to have to find a niche someplace. The niche is like next with his. So, okay. Question number 4.
Another question, why did a sailor spend months in prison for eating an onion? It's actually kind of funny with me being a 15-year sailor, and I got this question. If he was sent because he couldn't, if you look at an onion bulb and a tulip bulb, they almost look alike. So when he grabbed that onion, what he thought was an onion, and he bit into it, basically he had just bitten into a $300,000 foreign, did I say it? Foreign? Tulip bulb. And he couldn't afford to pay for it, so they had to spend time in prison in order to recompensate, cover the cost of a tulip bulb. I mean, how bad this got during this time frame for the cost of these things.
So my question is, why do you think you put this question?
I believe he put it in is to show the fact that this how bad the mania got. This how people flipping out over these tulip bulbs. And this, I believe this particular one was a Cypher Augustus. I think that was how you say it. And it's like just because it was a rare bulb. And it teaches, I think it's beginning to try to tell us to teach, we can't put value on everything like this.
Right. So, I mean, do you think it was justified to put him in prison?
No.
So, I mean, think about in today's world where something like this might happen. Where could something like this
About like a house,
Yeah.
or maybe at an auction house where it's built in and pay for it. Usually in the person as far as and taking out each.
Right. So, kind of a small thing. If you're one of my brother-in-laws works he worked at a bike shop, high school, college, and his brother's still working. But they get in these new frames for these bikes, cardboard boxes. And the more expensive the frame, the lighter it is. And so they're just going to throw away boxes. It's really hard to tell how much. Like, because if you've got a frame that weighs less than like 2 or 3 pounds, you can't tell the difference between full boxes. So a couple of times frames have been thrown. And the owner always makes them pay for the frame. And I personally think that's kind of extreme because they're usually like a $2,000 or $3,000. But then on the other hand, you got the Van Goghs, Picasso. Somebody accidentally ripped one of those. So right, then, well, you have the retail price, but there's a lot of these manias. But is it really fair if someone doesn't understand that they have to pay the price? Because the sailor obviously didn't have the money to handle it.
Well, I think as a business owner or manager or whatever, you should have protocols in place to prevent happening. Because, in my opinion, in a way, it is your fault. Can you really blame the employee for kind of being dumb? It's your money, it's your livelihood. Why aren't you more protective of it?
So that's a good point too. Same thing with the guy in the onion. I mean, why weren't they labeled correctly? Come on. Right.
I mean, it also goes to the fact that even it doesn't have to be an onion or a tulip. It could be like a priceless artifact or a relic, a church, or that someone breaks a stained glass window, because you can't put value on certain things like that.
Right.
And I think that's what he's trying to tell, because you're talking about sailors. I had one of my deployments when we were in Suda Bay Creek, and one of the guys got drunk one night, one of the sailors, and he threw a rock and he broke a church window. They had cops from that country actually came to the ship, picked him up, and he spent 2 months in prison. We had to relinquish him for 2 months. Because sometimes you can't put a price on things.
Right. Yeah, you can't put a price on stuff. I mean, this is an interesting question because they put him in prison, and luckily it wasn't for life, and they didn't hang him.
Yeah, exactly.
Because really, the human life should be worth more than whatever price you put on. Because the question is pretty easy to answer, but I think I'm assuming they want us to. All right, question 5. Group 5.
Definitely not me. Come on, don't throw me under the bus.
What are you going to do?
Yes, because he speaks so well and articulates himself. It's like wonderful. You guys are blown away by the stuff.
Okay.
Good job, sir.
Type in the question.
Yeah, just type it.
On here. Am I on 5? I am on 5, not 7, huh? Roots this.
Watch these typing us real quick. It's very, very quick. You don't feel confident you're answering it correctly.
Well,
is there any wrong answer?
I'm going to say that there's not any wrong answers for most of these things. You can make up whatever you want in the class. As long as,
I can say Pluto and Mickey were in Dutch, and they really love these tulips, and you'd be like, I like her thinking.
so, yeah, you've got to come up with something else. So who is? Okay.
Okay. I got my explanation was Plutos is kind of blind to wealth. He's the Greek god that's blind to wealth. And his anti-chamber, meaning the whole city or the whole country that was so obsessed with the tulips, it just kind of got a little greedy about trying to make money and profit, and they were selling good profit.
Okay.
I don't know. That was my explanation.
No, that's good. Anyone else have?
Thanks, team.
Anyone else have something you want to add to this?
Along those lines.
I was just kind of like building mythology, and when you refer to it in a logical sense, the antechamber is actually like a level of value.
Okay.
Compare that with the city, thing is the corrupt, but it actually becomes a level of value.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Okay. So, but Plutus, isn't he the god of greed?
Yeah, so
why would that be his level of hell? What would be his level of hell? Was that city was totally greedy, or they had? Yeah, I mean, so you could explain that's where his hell was, is because people were there and they were suffering. Or what would his hell be? Like where everybody was.
I would just say where destroyed, like. People were starving, people were rioting, all of it over greed.
Yeah, they got great. So we're actually going to. Well, this is the discussion that I wanted to have, and I'm going to end the class early today because of my other business problem that I got to take.
Good luck with that. Well, better than it has been, dude.
So now remember again, we've switched the next assignment. So the next assignment that we're going to talk about on Tuesday is Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations. And then the chapter, so I think that's chapter 11. And so chapter 10, we will discuss on Thursday, and that will be the group assignment.